Hello, everyone, and as always, welcome back to Strategy Gaming Dojo, where we find, learn, and play one more turn of the great strategy games. And today we're going to jump back into our basic tutorial for Gary Grigsby's War in the East 2. Now, this is part number 15, and the second part we'll be doing on headquarters and commanders. And it goes to show you what a game this is. Part 15 will probably be about 20 parts by the time we're done here, but I've been trying to keep them a little shorter this time, 30 to 40 minutes if we can. But let's jump right in here to headquarters unit. And first of all, I'm going to take logistics off so we can see a little bit better. And there we go. We've got a headquarters unit here. It is the 26th Corps. Okay, 26th Corps is connected to 18th Army. It is quote unquote in command. It is only 8 hexes away out of a possible 15 to still be in command. And so it is in command. It is getting benefits from this headquarters. Now, what benefits does a headquarters unit give to its subordinates? Well, it really affects everything. So you should try to do everything that you can to keep units in command. And when I say in command, you want them within the certain number of hexes that the game prescribes that they should be in. And so this 251st ID, even though it's stacked with the first corps, is actually commanded out here by this corps we were just looking at. And you will see 26th Corps, it's within 4 of 5, okay? So now this headquarters, let's right click on it, and what does it have? It has something called support. Now these are support elements, not support units. Support units can go out like artillery, anti-aircraft, and they can help units fight. This support helps units with logistical type items. So it does help their kind of combat ability, but it does it in a little more less of an overt way. It does it by giving them support. All right. Also, headquarters units help units get more freight to turn into supply or bullets or fuel. And let's look at 251st ID again, the 251st Infantry Division. Let's look at supply details. And when we go through here, we've already talked about logistics. It's getting its freight from Riga. Okay, that's great. And then we look down here and we see admin failures. Okay, this is what directly is affected by the headquarters. So this unit's headquarters has a commander, and we're going to go look at the commander here in a minute, but that commander has to pass certain admin roles. And if that commander fails those roles, then this unit would not get as much freight and ultimately supplies, fuels, ammo, vehicles, or support. All right. Ultimately, it would not get as many of those things if its commander keeps failing its admin roles. And you can see that right here. And so in the old game, and I know I have a lot of War in the East 1 players that are here for War in the East 2. In the old game, supply used to come into the headquarters and the headquarters would push it out to the units. That's not how it works anymore. The units get it directly from the depots. But this admin score and these admin roles do affect how much freight the unit can have. So the headquarters affects the kind of the logistics, the overall combat support for this unit. It also affects the supply for this unit. It also, if we go and look at the commander, in this case it's Wadrig, can affect the morale of the unit, all right, which is the most important factor in combat. It can affect the initiative, meaning how far the unit can move, whether it fires first, whether it hits when it fires. Admin, we just talked about that with respect to supply. And these numbers and these ratings go into thousands of different roles every turn. Okay, and so they're vitally important. All right. I think maybe I've made the point on that. You can see here he is an infantry general, a 6. Okay, he's ground only. He could only do an infantry or a mech unit on the ground, and his highest level max command is an army headquarters. Okay, So he can command both of these. Now you see dismissal cost, that is based on his political score. We haven't talked a lot about the political, but basically just think of it like this. The more liked they are by the Nazi hierarchy, the harder it is going to be for you to kick them out. And I say harder, you can do it, but you got to spend the administrative points. Now in this game, admin points are spent essentially in three ways: replacing generals, building airfields, or building depots. That's pretty much it. So these APs, you can build a depot, build an airfield, or replace your generals. And you see in our current Let's Play, we have 16 AP points. Well, if we wanted to get rid of Wadrig, we could click on here, dismissal cost 10, and you can see the 10 here. That's how much it is to replace the general you're trying to. This first number is what's the cost it's going to be to get this new general, okay? And so these are kind of, well, not kind of, they are listed in order of their average overall ability. And if we go over Wadrig here, you can see Albert Wadrig is an average 4.4. Okay? If we go down the German generals, Model, von Manstein, Rendulic, Hubei, Enrique, these are the best that the Germans have. And, therefore up here higher, and therefore they are already in command of various units. The best one we've got down here is Brandenburger, Eric Brandenburger. He's a 9 political, but he's a 7 for morale, 7667. Okay, and so he is actually much better than Wadrig. So why not? Let's just put him in there, right? Well, you've only got so many admin points, and with 16 admin, you're getting 15 each turn. You pretty much have to build 2 or 3 depots. You may want to build an airfield. So when it comes down to it, you can maybe only replace one general a turn. All right. You can't just freewheeling come in here and just start replacing everybody. So when you look at this, if we did want to put Brandenburger in here, it would be 1 point to get Brandenburger. That's because he's a major general or general major. This is a lieutenant general. They will cost different based on what their level in the hierarchy is. You can see Erwin Rommel is a general that he costs 5. Okay, can we find anybody who's a 6? General Major, okay, that guy costs a little bit more. But basically, what it comes down to is whatever the rank of the guy you're trying to pull in is, will be this AP points, and then we already know it's always going to be 10 for Wadrig, and that's based on his political score and his rank. Okay, and so how do we decide, when do you want to replace the general? Why do you want to replace the general? Well, there's a couple of different things, and there's a new wrinkle in this game. And that is if we go to 18th Army, I've got this on as an assault army, okay? In the game now, you can take 6 of your panzer groups or armies and turn them into assault groups or armies, okay? And so you start the game with all 4 of your panzer groups as assault armies. Um, and then you can pick 2 of your other armies, whether it be 18th, 16th, second army, or not second army, 9th army, 4th army, 17th, or 6th. You can pick out of those 6 main armies, you can pick 2 of them to be assault armies. And how do you decide how to do that? Well, it's kind of just a little bit of trial and error. I mean, or what your main objective. The way I decided to make 18th Army an assault army and 11th Army way down. So I guess you actually have 7 armies. The way I decided to pick those 2 is because they line up with my major objectives. 18th Army is pushing for Leningrad. I want Leningrad taken. So what advantages do you get for being an assault army? Well, you recover your combat prep points at double level. And so this 251st Infantry Division, you see its combat prep points. Now this goes in as a modifier to all combat. from 0 to 100. This has got 0. Well, we've already moved it this turn. Let's go down here and see. Well, this has got all of one 30th Infantry Division. Okay, that's not great. This has got 3. Now, 16th is not an assault army. 18th is an assault army. And so it will be getting its combat prep points back at double speed. And so that's one thing to think about. But the kind of, I don't know if it's the main thing, because that is very important, getting your combat prep points back. But the main thing I've been thinking about, I guess I can put it that way, is that it expands the number of units your generals can command. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's go down here to a Corps headquarters in the 16th Army. All right, it's the 10th Corps. This is Hanson. All right, Hanson's okay general, a little above average actually. We look over here to his command points. All right, this says he can command up to 9 command points of units, and currently he's commanding 6. That is standard. If something is not an assault army, it's just one of your normal armies. Generally speaking, Corps headquarters, no matter how good their commander is, can command 9 points. And how do we add those up? Well, every division is 2 points, all right? And if we go down here and see a division that's been split into 3, so it's got the regiment, that's 1 point. So 1, 2, 3 points, okay? And if we look here, this Corps headquarters underneath von Wilketorn is commanding 3 of 9. He's got these 3 command points. He could command up to 9. If we look at this Corps headquarters, which is the 42nd, under Harpe, who's actually very good, he's got 1, 2, 3 divisions. He's commanding 6 points out of 9. So they can do 9 total. Each division is 2 points, or each panzer division is 2 points, each motorized. So divisions are 2 points, and the regimental level, when you've broken up a division, are each 1 point. And so it's not quite as efficient, right? Because if we put all these together, it'd be one division, it would be 2 points. When they're split apart, it is 3 points. Okay, now how do you want to kind of organize these? Well, Harpe is probably our best corps general in 16th Army. We actually would want to give him right up to his limit. Ideally, he would be commanding 9 points. Just the way this is broken down during our game, all of these guys up here in 16th are commanding 6, except for the one guy down here that's only got 3. He should be our worst general, and he is. Von Wilktorn is the worst out of the 16th. Okay, how does that relate to assault armies? Well, let's go to Walter Model, who is commanding First Corps, and you see here 12 of 12. When you designate something as an assault army, so 18th Army is an assault army, all of the Corps headquarters can now command 12. That is a huge advantage if you have a couple of really good generals in 18th Army, and we do. I made sure we did by putting Modal in here, but we also have Lindemann over here at a Corps headquarters, and he's also got 12 of 12. And if we look at Lindemann, he's a 6777, a very good general. Not quite as good as Hubei, actually, but very close. So, Hubei's all sevens. This guy's 6777. So he's got that one little sixth in there, Lindemann. And what I did was I put everything from 18th Army under these two generals' commands. Almost. I had a couple left over. We've got 3 regiments and 1 division that were left over, and I did put them under Wadrig. And so Wadrig is commanding 5 of 12. So the 3 regimental levels, we broke up a division into 3. So that's 3 points, and 1 division makes 5. Okay, so That is kind of how assault armies work, and why you would want to do it is in some respects it may be cheaper than replacing generals. If you look down here, we have two core headquarters that we're not even using, and these are our two guys. Von Chapuis, my guy, General Friedrich von Chapuis. He's a 4.55.6. I mean, look, he's not terrible, but for the German army, he's not good. All right. And so we're just not even using him. And the way I did that was not to replace him, is we just sidelined these guys. And we've got our good generals commanding all of our units. And as long as they're within that 12, they're fine. So it's not like there's a penalty for commanding 12 instead of 10. It's not like if you back that off to 10, they're suddenly better generals or get better stats or better roles or something. You can go right up to that 12. That does change if you go over 12, all right? And so don't do that. Don't do that. Now let's look at the army level, because this kind of works the same way. Is when we made 18th Army an assault army, now 18th Army can have underneath it, and that includes all of the command points in every corps that it directly commands. Um, they add up to 29. Well, 18th Army can do 45. Not bad, right? So Mr. Von Kukler is happy. He's like, we've got this command structure looking nice. You see, it costs 23 to get rid of this army general. And so, those guys are going to be hard to replace. And honestly, I don't do it often. And here in a minute, I'm going to tell you why. It's one of the things that I talk about a lot that I think that people misunderstand in the game. And, we kind of go back and forth in the comments, because the way this works isn't the way some people think it works. But we're gonna get to that in just one second. Let's continue talking about this army. So an assault army can command up to 45 that's directly subordinate to it. Um, one thing to keep in mind, you can directly connect units to the army, but the vastly superior way of doing it is to have them connected to corps, the divisions to corps, and then the corps report to the army. You get extra dice rolls if they fail their tests out here, okay? So it's 45 for 18th Army. Where's 16th Army? Let's go try to find it. It's all the way down here, my gosh. So if it's not an assault army, it's only 27 that they can have under their command before they start to get penalties, and so keep that in mind. All right, let's go look at modal again, and let's just look at everything you see here. All right, supply priority. He can set this for all of the divisions underneath him. This starts at the corps level. And so supply priority is really set here. Now you can set it higher up, but everything underneath it changes to that. So really, just to be careful, you probably want to do it down at the corps level. This is telling you it's a core with 3 X's. Generally, headquarters have 50 movement points if they're in good supply. Now, Modal's a little bit off on his supply, but that's okay. He still has, enough to where he's going to have around 50 movement points. You see how many strategic movement points that the headquarters have. So these move just like other counters on the map. There's no difference between this and a combat unit in how it moves. It can move by rail, which will take up SMP, strategic movement points, and these two play off each other. If you use all these up, this will go to 0 as well. All right. You can then, this button, Commander's Report, you can click on that and bring up everything underneath First Corps. So you can see the 6 divisions that are under Modal's leadership or commandership, and then you can see all of the support units and their stats underneath here, okay? And so in the Let's Play, I don't bring this up a lot, but it's actually really, really helpful. I mean, you can see some of these support units have good prep points. Some of them are close to their table of equipment percentage being up near 100. Some of them aren't. You could even lower down what you want their TO. This works just like every other, these support units work just like every other unit in the game. You can raise and lower their TOE. You can put them in refit if you want. This is their withdrawal turn and where they're going to be going when they withdraw, okay? And, so on and so forth. this tells you 18th Army, that's who he's under, modal and First Corps, and then all of these units are under First Corps. You can come check this out, what they are. You can click on them, look at them. Okay, what all we've got here, how much they're adding to combat, how much fatigue, so on and so forth. And so that's a really helpful button that I probably honestly don't use enough. I should use it more. Then you'll see here how many men are actually in the headquarters. Uh, Guns, AFVs, fuel, or I'm sorry, supply and fuel, and how much it can command. If we right click, we already talked about this, support, you can see the total support, 3649, organic support, 3424, total support needed 2890, so he's got plenty. Now, these work just like every other element. If they get damaged or, somehow this headquarters gets into a scrap, um, they can be replaced. You're churning out support elements and they can replace here. You can look at this unit's supply details, the headquarter unit that is, the supply priority, which you can also set here, show subordinates. Okay, that's what we just did. You can also do it from the back of the card here. You can relocate headquarters. Okay, and I'm not going to go into that there, but there's a bit to it. But you can relocate those back to urban areas if you need to. If they start to get isolated, surrounded, whatever, you can move the headquarters back there. Here is where you see the support units that are attached to this headquarters. Now, of course, if he passes his dice rolls, modal, for all of the tests he has to pass, these can be committed to battle unlimited number of times in a turn, essentially. So they could be committed to this battle here, to here, to here. That has something to do also with the fact that, artillery can shoot a long ways. It can go up to 20 miles. So, it can reach out to these places. It also, if you're doing a deliberate attack, he just kind of says, here you go. Now do your deliberate attack. We're planning for artillery. So you can use, these essentially if he passes his rolls that he needs to, which is usually, I think, and they don't reveal exactly the entire algorithm, but if you look at initiative, admin, and their actual, whether it be infantry score or mech score, all of those kind of have a impact on whether those support units get in there. Okay. What else did I want to say about the back of the card? You can see the morale. It works just like morale and other combat units. 75 is the German base. They're a little over that because they've been winning battles. They're 17 and 4. How much supply they have, how much they need. So this is why he's orange. He's not quite getting the supply into the headquarters itself. I mean, they got to feed a lot of men just in the headquarters. It's not like just out in the units. Vehicles in need, you see that there. That's it's in supply. Okay, now I'm going to go on to a topic about how these dice rolls work. What I call dice rolls, they call them checks in the game or in the rule book. But let's go into how those work a little bit because I think there's some confusion about how they work. And I know that there's a bit of not controversy, that's too strong of a word, but there's been some questions asked of why I have my best generals down at the core level. Okay. And so we're going to go through what happens I'm gonna go through what happens when there are checks, as the rule book calls it. Okay, so let's say that this division gets into combat right here. Now it doesn't have enough movement points, but we're gonna play make believe. It's like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood here. We're gonna make believe. Let's say that it gets into a fight here and the game needs to do an initiative check. Okay, maybe to commit support units, maybe because the unit isn't, it could be anything. It's going to fire on something, and so there's an initiative check. Okay, so let's go look at Walter Model. And we could have done that from his commander card, but let's go look here. His initiative score is 8. All right. Cool. Let's get the pencil out. All right. So modal, when it comes to do this initiative check, has an 8 out of 10 chance to pass that check. Now, nobody's ever perfect. Gosh darn it, I wish, shoot, I'm not. Nobody's ever perfect. So even if you have a 9, you will fail a roll 10% of the time. Nobody in this game is rated a 10 from a commander perspective. Modal is about as good as it gets, right? Initiative, 8. 8 out of 10. He's got an 80% chance, okay? 0.80. Okay. Let's say the game rolls a 9 and he fails. Oh my God, Walter, what has happened here? All right. What do we do then? And for this, I'm going to have to click off the dang pencil because I can't do them both at the same time. The game then goes to the army level, assuming the core headquarters is in command distance from the Army headquarters. And in this case, he is. So we're going to go here. 18th Army. That is von Kukler, the aforementioned George von Kukler. And he has got a 7. Okay, so he's got a 7 for initiative. So modal failed. All right, and so modal passes, you know, 0.8% of the time. This is at the core level. Now we're going to go to the Army level. This is von Kukler. He's got a 7. So you say, okay, 7 out of 10. No, it's not. And this is the confusion. For von Kukler, it's a 20-sided die, okay? And oh gosh, now I've got to do math, right? What is this? Like a 30, oh my goodness, 35% chance, right? He's got a 35% chance of passing this. All right, so we had 80%. But, okay, he's got a 35% chance, but only 20% of them get down here. Now we're really doing math, all right? So he's got a 0.35, but only 20% ever get to him, all right? So times 0.2. So now we've got a, what, 0.07? Is that right? 0.17? 0.07? No, it's 0.07. So he's got a 7% chance to pass this. Okay, so we have an 80% and a 7%. We're up to 87%. But let's say von Kukler fails. And this is why I put my best generals at the core level. Even if you have modal here and he's got an 8, it's only 8 out of 20. That's not that big of a difference, right? I mean, it's a very 1 out of 20. It's a 5% better chance to pass this. At the core level, if it's an 8 out of 10 as compared to a 7 out of 10, it's a 10% better chance. Does that make sense? So down here, we're on a 10-sided die. Up here, we're on a 20-sided die. All right? So we're up to 80%, 7%, but let's say von Kukler rolls a 9 and he fails, all right? Then what happens? Well, we go to Army Group North. And at Army Group North, who's in command of Army Group North? It's von Lieb. And von Lieb has a 7 initiative, all right? Okay, let's go back to the pencil. So Modal had 80%. Von Kukler had a 7 out of 20, which was 35%, but he only gets 20% that fall down to him. And so 7% he adds to this 80%. And then Von Lieb down here has a 7. So you say, okay, 7 out of 20. No, it's 7 out of 40. This is a 40-sided die. All right. And so you can see why having your best generals at like Army Group North, yes, it's going to affect more dice rolls around the board because at Army Group North, he's going to get all the failed checks from 4th Panzer, 16th, 18th. They're all going to come to him, but let's just stick with the initiative idea. he's only going to be rolling against a 40, I mean, only, he is going to be rolling against a 40-sided die. And so what, 40 into 7, what is that, like 17%, right? But only 13% ever fall to him. They only fail 13%. So now all of a sudden it's 13% times 17%. Holy mackerel. I don't know. What is that, like 2%? I'm just going to round. I think that's like 2% that he actually passes for them. This is why I put all of my best generals at the core level. By the time we get to, and I know a lot of players replace Franz Halder at OKH, but once we get past Army Group North, then it's Halder on an 80-sided die. So I don't even know what he is. Let's say he's a 6. I mean, he's affecting like 1% you would pass that don't normally pass. Now, it's a lot more dice rolls, and I do get that. But ultimately, what's important is passing them right at the point, at the core level. Because once you start falling down here, you're against a 20-sided die, a 40-sided die, an 80-sided die. Now, when this adds up, instead of our usual 80%, if we only tested this at the core level, it's actually up to 90%. So when modal does fail one, we've got about a 50% chance of somebody else passing it. All right. If that's too much math for you, I understand. I understand. You're like, holy smokes, I'm having high school flashbacks. That is a lot, to kind of take in mathematically. But the basic idea is this: you need your guy passing the checks here. Once we start going down the row here, there's a way less chance of them passing as we go down. Now, they do affect more dice rolls, and so there's a little bit of a balancing act there, right? If you have just a terrible guy here and he gets, 500 rolls every time and he just always fails because he's like a 1, okay. But the difference between a 6 and a 7 when you're rolling against a 40-sided die is not enough to say, you know what, I need Modal at Army Group North. I've got to have him here because he's my best general in the North. No, you need Modal at the point of attack where you really need him. At least that's my opinion. Okay. And so let's go replace someone. I've got enough AP this time that I really want to replace someone. And we've got some bad generals out here. So I said our assault armies are 18th and 11th down in the south. I've got a lot of bad generals in 6th Army. I say bad. They're mediocre. They'd be good in the Soviet army. For the German army, they're not very good. 55th is under Vero. He's not terrible. Okay, maybe we should go down to 17th. Those guys are all about the same in 6th. What's 52nd Corps? More of the same. Von Briesen, he's kind of got some 5s and some 6s. We've got, okay, he's no good. Kubler, he's only a 3 political here, okay, but he's at a general level, so kind of mid-level general, like a 3-star general. His dismissal cost would be 11. All right, let's click on him. And let's see who we've got. Well, we've got the aforementioned Brandenburger, who gives you a lot better chance of passing a roll. So let's see what a Kubler is really bad at. Morale. Morale is so important, right? Morale is the number one thing you really need to pass those rolls. So let's say we get attacked, right? With von Kubler, he's Mountain Corps, so he's the 49th Mountain Corps. Let's say that they get attacked and the game's trying to decide whether they just retreat and step back 1 hex, or they get routed. And part of that is a morale check, okay? If we have a Kubler here, we've got a 4 out of a 10 chance to pass our morale check, so 40%. That's not very good, right? Let's get off there. And let's say that we go replace him with Brandenburger. Well, Brandenburger's got a 7. So he's got a 70%. He's got not quite a double, but it's, we're getting there. It's 70% instead of 40% for Brandenburger. And so that's a big difference. If that unit routes, it could make a hole in your line. It may take them turn after turn to try to unroute or to rally that could be a big deal. What if that happens to he's commanding 8 out of 9, so he's commanding 4 divisions. What if that happens on the same turn to all 4 divisions? That could blow a hole in your line that you can't recover from. Once the Germans get on the defensive, the Soviets could pour armor right through here if we had all 4 of those German divisions together. And so the difference between, let's say a 5 was rolled and Kubler fails that because he's a 4. All right. So if a 5 is rolled, he fails it, but Brandenburger passes it every time. And so those units just step back a hex. Under Kubler, they all rout. And so, I mean, it can have that big of an effect. But let's, just kind of go down the line here with Kubler. He's a 4. So we've got a 4 out of, whoa, he was drawn without a pencil. That sounds like a party foul. 4 out of 10. I'll just let that go. 40%. Okay, he's got a 40%. Now then, let's see what happens. What if he fails? So Kubler goes up to 17th Army. Who's in charge of 17th Army? Well, that's von Stolpnagel. He's also terrible for morale. As a matter of fact, this is a guy we may want to get rid of too. He's just awful to be leading an army. But now this is only 4 out of 20. And so now we've got, 4 out of 10, 40%. 4 out of 10 for Kubler. So I'll just make this 0.40. Then Stulpnagel, though, is 4 out of 20. This clown. Okay, so he's a 0.2, but he only gets well, I say only. He gets 60% of these. He only passes them 20% of the time. That's another 12%. All right. So he helps us pass another 12%. We're up to 52, so 40 and 12. Let's remember that. 7th Army, or I'm sorry, 17th Army, then goes back to Army Group South. Well, who do we got back here? Von Rundstedt, who's actually a good general, but not so good with the morale. He's only a 5, all right? And so if we trace this all the way back to Army Group South, we have Kubler, 40%. 60% fall to our next guy, but out of those 60%, so we'll just say, 0.6 goes down. He only, though, passes 4 out of 20, which is, 20%. And so that's 0.12. And then, oh gosh, I can't remember who. Oh, von Rundstedt, right? He's only a 5, but that's 5 out of 40. What is that, like 12% as well? So that's 12%, but he's only getting 48, percent. So we've now passed it at a 52% level by this here. So he gets, 48% of these rolls dropped to him. And so it's 0.48 times 0.12. I mean, shit, I don't know. Let's call that 5, right? 5%. So he adds another 5% that we pass. We're only up to 57%. Then it would go to Halder, who let's just say is a 6, and that's a 6 out of 80. Whoops, boy, what happened there? I drawn too much at that point. 6 out of 80. So he's not adding much to it, but let's just say that totally gets us to 60% pass rate. That is not very good for morale, right? But this is how it works. And if you have a guy way down here at the bottom that's not good, I can tell you, I've done the math. It makes sense to have your best generals at the corps level because this level is the best chance you'll ever have to pass the test, no matter how good these generals are here. All right? Ooh, math today. Man, oh man, I know you guys are mad at me. I know you're like, I did not come here for the math, my friend. Well, that's okay because we're going to play the game next. I'm going to post this. But that's really generals and command. The big things to take away from here, and while I'm drawing, I'm just going to continue, okay? The big things to take away from here are one, always keep your divisions in command. Easy, right? You're like, I already do that. Divisions in command. Keep them in command, and that goes all the way up the line. Corps, keep them in command with armies, keep armies in command with army groups, keep army groups in command with OKH, and move things about how you have to try to do that in every way that you can, because it makes a difference for so many different things. Even if you've already attacked at the end of the turn and you get to the end of the turn, you say, it doesn't really matter if they're in command now, right? Well, it's going to matter during the logistics phase for those admin roles. Also, if you get counterattacked and a division is not in command, it will get no support units, right? And so it's very important. Keep these suckers in command if at all possible. If at all possible. If it's just impossible, what can you do? But, if at all possible, keep them in command. Two, always keep the command points under the total command points they're allowed to have if you can. Because once you start getting above that, um, they get penalties, all right, and they get penalties to their various roles. Actually, I think they do not get a penalty for morale, but I'll have to check that in the rule book. But there's so many penalties that come with it. Is command points less than? What's the less than sign? Isn't it that? Yeah, right. This is how many command points you're actually commanding to the recommended. Make sure it's less than, okay, to the recommended. Um, to the extent you can, always have divisions attached to cores. That goes into that math we just did right there. That's because if you have a division here that goes to a core, you get that dice roll against a 10-sided die. If it is attached directly to the army, you don't get that 10-sided dice roll. Now there are certain modifiers in the game. You get like a 12 or a 14-sided dice roll. It doesn't go directly to 20 like it does if you go through the core here. If it's directly attached, it's not a full 20 for the dice roll at the army. I think it's either 12 or 14. But that being said, it's one less chance to pass those tests. So always have divisions attached to cores if you can. Have your fighting units attached to cores. All right. 4, use your assault armies. Take the chance to make the 2 armies that you can assault armies. I'll just call that ass. If you uh, you've only got so many great generals, okay? Try to get those generals with 12 command points if you can. So put your great generals into an army, make it an assault army, and attach every division you got to him, because it's so important to get as many units as you can under those great generals. So assault, do that. 5, um, try to cycle in each turn one other good general. You're blessed, so replace to the extent you can. I would say do the assault route first, and then just sideline some bad generals, but try to replace your bad generals too. As a matter of fact, me just looking at this made me decide that during our Let's Play during this time, I'm going to get rid of somebody in 17th Army. That's an embarrassment on the morale front. So replace as you can. You don't have to, just do like one a turn. You have enough to build a few depots, an airfield if you need it, but then replace a general each turn early in the game and get your good generals out on the field. Okay? Wow, I got to draw a lot today. That makes me happy. So anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me. If you have any further questions about this, if you want to just discuss it, either put them down in the comments or come to Discord. Ask it at Discord. We have a War in the East 2 channel. There are other people there that know a lot about the game. So if I'm not around, or if I maybe don't know the answer, I don't know, somebody there will. All right. So do that, and we'll answer as many questions as we can. So anyway, thank you guys so much. I do appreciate it. As always, this is Strategy Gaming Dojo. I'll talk to you later. Have a good one, guys. Bye.